There we go. Good morning, everybody, or nobody, depending of who's ending up watching this or not. It's really early in the morning here in Norway. It is 9 a.m. Not super early for some, but kind of early for me because for the past year I have been on sick leave. So I have had the luxury of sleeping at least until 11, 12 o'clock most of the days. Well, I wouldn't call it a luxury, more of a prerequisite for being exhausted and depressed and stuff. You know, it's hard to get up in the morning when you're feeling low or you're in pain. And the past year I've been happened to be feeling both, but we're trying to get better. We're trying to move on with life and do things that give us energy and make us happy. I'm talking about myself in the third person, or it's or as a plural rather. That's not good. I'm trying to move forward and do better things and try new things and see what works and what doesn't work. And right now I'm trying to do a morning show kind of thing where we just sit and chat and chill, and I'm eating my breakfast and having a little bit of an energy drink and just trying to be really chill and start my day easy with you guys. So as soon as I finish my breakfast and just chit-chatting, we're gonna play some Vampire the Masquerade Coteries of New York, which I'm very excited about. I started playing through it earlier this week, so the first episode of me playing Vampire the Masquerade Coteries of New York is still up on our Twitch account, and there's also a highlight with which just features the beginning of the stream, and we've also uploaded the entire video to our YouTube account, so if you want to see the whole thing, you can. It's basically me voice acting the intro to Vampire the Masquerade's Coteries of New York with the Toreador clan. So we're gonna continue that saga later today. I have no idea if this is a time of day when people actually watch things on Twitch or not, at least in Scandinavia. I've never tried live streaming in the morning before. I have no makeup on. I have like puffy morning face going on, and I just look tired in general. It's always a good look, always. And I usually don't eat breakfast either. I'm not really a breakfast person. Like, a lot of people say that, you should eat a big breakfast, and breakfast is one of the most important meals of the day, and I'm not disagreeing. It probably is. But ever since I was a kid, I've never really enjoyed breakfast. It's very like... I usually get a little nauseous if I eat too much during the morning. So I usually, like, back when I used to work, I usually didn't eat until like 1 p.m. or 2 p.m. Cuz I could just hold it. If I didn't eat breakfast, I could just not eat and it would be fine. So yeah. How are you guys? What are your like breakfast routines? I don't know. I always felt weird about not being a breakfast person, but as I've gotten older and I've gotten to talk to more people, I realized that it's not just me; it's other people too. And I used to be a bit of a morning person. Like, I used to be able to get up early and be really awake and be like, yes, let's start the day. But no, not anymore. I think it's because I've gotten older. Partly it's because I've gotten older, and partly it's because of fibromyalgia and other things. So, uh, 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 uh. Just going through some messages here. Speaking of Vampire the Masquerade, by the way, I am part of a Vampire the Masquerade role-playing podcast, if you didn't know, which is called Chicago by Night, and you can find it on iTunes and Spotify and pretty much wherever you listen to podcasts. Hey, I'm Christine. Thank you for liking the stream. I appreciate it. It's nice to know that someone is watching. Let's see. Yeah. Where was I? Yeah, Vampire the Masquerade. If you're into LA by Night and stuff like that, I'm not saying we're as good as LA by Night with Jason Carl and the fabulous cast, but I mean we're pretty cool too in our own way. So if you want to listen to our podcast, you can find it at Chicago by Night on, well, pretty much everywhere, as I mentioned. I play a young Bruja called Kay, who's kind of stuck in being a teenager, even though she's not technically a teenager anymore. She's like this little emo kid vampire with fangs that don't retract. That's like one of her, not derangements, but flaws that I chose for the character. So she has constant fangs out. So she walks around, you know, dressing like an emo kid just to throw off a bit of suspicion, you know, because a lot of emo kids and scene kids and goths and stuff walk around with vampire teeth for just fashion accessories. So she has to like maintain that whole look, and she doesn't really mind because she's a Bruja and part of a motorcycle gang, and she wears a lot of like skinny jeans and leather vests and things. She's a bit hopeless. She's very impetuous, I guess you could say, and stubborn, and she's so much fun to play, even though I know she drives the game master, my husband, crazy sometimes because he doesn't appreciate immature characters, and I think I'm doing a good job of being immature, seeing as I'm annoying him to such an extent as I actually am. So that's kind of funny. The other characters I play with are Maya. Maya is a Toreador who, when she was human, started her own like makeup brand, beauty brand, and she was Instagram famous. And these days she's still Instagram famous. She's still pretending that she's alive and in the public eye, and she's running her makeup brand from, you know, behind the scenes. And Maya is she's got a bit of an attitude, and I really appreciate that character. We also have Emily Payne, which is a Ventru, and she's a bit of a sadist / masochist. So she's really like embraced the whole being a beast, being a vampire, sex and violence, and dysfunctional relationships and all of that. She's really grim, and parts of her storylines are really sexy too. So it's like we're sitting around the table while we're acting out these things, and it's like, ooh, damn, we went there. Okay, well, sure thing. That's pretty cool. And then we have Eli, which is a Malkavian who used to be a part of the American Army, and he was sent to Iraq before he was turned. He was turned while he was on active duty, so he was sent back to America in a body bag, and well, he's just all kinds of messed up with voices and prophecies, and he's an interesting character, to say the least. He's got this southern accent, and he's kind of taken like this dad role in the group, towards Kay at least. They've got a special bond. Because, well, let's face it, Emily and Maya aren't exactly Bruja or Malkavian friendly characters. They don't really like Kay and Eli at all. And then lastly, we have Shota, which is the deputy of Chicago. He works for the sheriff, obviously. And he's kind of there to keep us in check, because we're part of an investigation squad who's looking into a bombing of the infamous Succubus Club. And let's just say that the investigation was a bit of a mess before Shota stepped in and started helping us out. And in the podcast, we've just gotten to the place where Shota has entered the story. So I'm not going to talk too much about it because that would be spoilers. But yeah, I'm actually going to be working on editing the next podcast episode for that soon. So we release a new episode of Chicago by Night the first of every month, just because I edit 2 podcasts and there is not enough time or energy in my day to publish a podcast weekly or bi-weekly. At least so far it hasn't, especially with therapy and physical treatment and, well, work before that. And it's just been a lot. A lot.com. It's been a long 2019 and 2018 for my part. So hopefully 2020 will be better. Maybe I'll be able to pick up some speed on the podcast front. Maybe not. We'll see. But I'm going to try because I really love Chicago by Night. And judging by the download statistics, so do other people. I think we've hit 13,000 downloads by now for our Dragon Age live role-playing game podcast and Chicago by Night, which is our vampire podcast. So it's pretty decent. I'm pretty happy about that. I'm very psyched to hit 20k. That would be awesome. So if any of you guys out there want to give us a listen and download and maybe spread the word to your friends so they can start listening to our podcast, that would be really cool. Because we don't really pay to advertise any of them. We don't really have a budget, so to speak. So we're really dependent on the whole word of mouth thing. I'm talking so much I'm forgetting to eat. That's never a good idea, you know? And I've been talking a lot now, so if you guys have any questions or anything you want to talk about, let me know. Because then we can talk about that. I am very open to that. So let's see. Thank you to Christine for liking the CosCast on Facebook. That's really nice of you. Let's see. So yesterday we did our The Witcher fan cast where we talked about the new Witcher show on Netflix. Have any of you guys seen it? And what did you think about it? Personally, I really like it. But then again, I'm a Witcher fan to begin with, so it was hard for me not to like it. And I feel like the show is a really good mix of the books and the games. Because they've used a lot of the aesthetics from the games when it comes to Geralt's hair and armor and like the way the character talks. But the story itself is closer to the books than the games. And if you're interested in listening to me and Sunniva talk about The Witcher for like a little bit over 2 hours, we go through characters and cast and costumes and timelines and things we like, things we didn't like, reviews that have been written about it. We talked about a lot of different things. So that episode is also still on Twitch. It also has its own highlight out, and so you can check, which is a little bit shorter, like 20 minutes long. And yeah, we're also up. We've also uploaded that episode to our YouTube channel, The CosCast Show, so you can also watch it on YouTube whenever you feel like it. I'm gonna just finish my food here, and then we're gonna start playing soon. I'm just gonna do a little bit of a advertising break for just a little while I finish my food, so you don't have to watch me chew for like 2 minutes. Here we go. Or maybe you do get to watch me chew. I don't know. Okay, there we go. So, we're back. After a teeny tiny break, you will no longer have to listen or watch me eat. Might drink every once in a while, though, but that's just... And yeah, I can tell that on Facebook it says that we're doing a Witcher fan cast. Not today. Just forgot to edit the information before I went live, but okay. It happens. It happens. Let's see if we can do some editing here. No. Just gonna end the video on Facebook. And then we're gonna just go and continue live on Twitch exclusively. Yay! So, we're gonna continue to play Vampire the Masquerade Coteries of New York now. So we're just gonna load our previous game with a character called Vincent. There we go. And the last time I did this, I voice acted the entire thing. And I'm going to continue doing that because that was fun. And it seemed like you guys enjoyed that. So we're going to do that. Let's see. Just going to check that everything is in order first. On Facebook and elsewhere. Cool. All right, there we go. So, let's dive into the world of Coteries of New York. You open your eyes. The bed isn't warm. The room is filled with artificial light from the ceiling. The solid metal door is closed. Normally, you'd stretch for a bit. On some mornings, you'd probably throw the quilt over yourself and snooze a moment longer. But that was before. The way you woke up now, you are fully conscious. No grogginess, nothing weighing you down, just the nagging need in the back of your head. Hunger, not as severe as the last time, but unmistakably there. You get up and open the door to the main room. A digital clock on the TV shows you the time, 9:04 p.m. You walk over to the blinds and retract them cautiously. The only light coming in is New York City's artificial nighttime luminescence. So that's what your waking hours are going to look like now. You miss the sunlight already. You're seriously considering just walking out of the apartment and figuring this all out by yourself. But then you come back to the memory of Kadir's exotic sword being raised in the gallery. Maybe sticking around isn't that bad of an idea after all. You keep jumping channels for around half an hour and then switch to streaming services. Almost as if the universe had a sense of irony, you catch True Blood in the flood of recommendations. The doorbell rings. It's Sophie. Sophie. Good evening, Vincent. Slept well? It's not exactly sleep, right? It's not really like normal sleep, is it? Sophie. I suppose it isn't. Some say it's more like being dead. But we wouldn't know, would we? It's no use reflecting on it anyway. Except that this is who you are now. You made the right choice yesterday. I can teach you many things about yourself, your blood, its desires and its powers. We will begin tonight. You are hungry, yes? I'm sure you are. Our kind always is. There is only one remedy, the blood. The drinks we had yesterday at Elysium are not the usual way you slake your thirst. So, tonight, I will assist you in your first foray into hunting. You need to learn to sense the kind of blood you desire, to understand how you can use the kind's vulnerabilities to your advantage. Predator and prey, huh? Grim. So let me get this straight. We are predators, humans are prey. That's pretty grim. I know what you feel. I remember the notion. But you will inevitably grow beyond it. You need blood to thrive, but there are many ways to take it, some more humane than others. You will find that drinking moderate amounts of it regularly will keep the hunger and the whispers of the beast away. You might think yourself monstrous, but there is a balance to be found here. The kiss gives the kind pleasure. You might remember this from your own embrace. Some can even become addicted to the sensation, but if you do it right, they tend to misremember your feeding. After all, vampires do not exist. They are myths, fairy tales, and pop culture mainstays, correct? She gives you a sly, knowing smile. That is why the masquerade is so important, and even more crucial when you feed. So, how do you select a victim? How do I choose who to feed from? Are there better or worse, targets? Sophie. Isolated kine are easiest prey, of course, but much depends on context. Hunting requires a different approach in a busy club than it does on an empty street. With time, you will have the luxury of finding your preference in hunting methods and prey. For now, I suggest experimenting in moderation. Feeding from the same area repeatedly can be dangerous, but by branching out, you risk the ire of other kindred on whose domains you trespass. Lucky for you, NYC is more forgiving in this regard. Now, for those of you who might not know what a domain is, it is a given area that a vampire is more or less in charge of or owns. It's their turf, their territory, and if you trespass on another vampire's domain, it's kind of like they have a pass to get to exact vengeance or pay retribution in some way. Domains are pretty sacred that way. So, back to Sophie. New York is in somewhat of a unique position. Many of its neighborhoods remain contested or unclaimed. The reason for this is a lesson for another time, but keep the following in mind. Take opportunities to feed when they present themselves these upcoming nights. As long as you hunt cautiously and respect the masquerade at all times, you should be fine. To wit, I want you to join me for a trip tonight. Come downstairs. Gregory is waiting for us. The busy street fills the air with traffic, noise, pedestrian chatter, and a mix of smells that disorient you momentarily. These warm bodies contain what you want, what you need. You catch yourself. Did you really just think of these people as mere sources of blood? It takes a nudge from Sophie to break your train of thought. Her driver opens the door for her and then tips his hat to you, gesturing to the back of the car. The car casually joins the somewhat thinned New York traffic. It's still busy in a way only one of the biggest cities in the world can be, but compared to the daytime commute, it's a pleasant drive. You barely have the time to gather your thoughts and formulate new questions before the car comes to a stop. You're among the tall skyscrapers that make up Manhattan's iconic skyline. You feel a pang of emotion as you realize this is where you took part in the exhibition just 2 nights prior. Same address, and you suspect same hall. To what ends has it been repurposed tonight? Sophie. Come, Vincent. Park the car, Gregory, will you? The driver just nods and Sophie gets out. You join her, and the two of you walk through the glass doors together, then take the elevator up. You first notice an empty stage with the instruments of a string quartet still in the back, then take in the few dozen chairs in front of it. The concert seeming concluded, the patrons, all smartly dressed and posh, have spread out all over the hall. Sophie strides confidently inside, produces an invitation from her purse that she flashes in front of a security guard. You follow close and are let through without issue. Sophie, let's start easy. A social setting like this one would usually prove quite challenging to an inexperienced kindred. But consider this evening a small gift from your patron. I'm hoping to procure for you a willing vessel. Just remember what I told you about taking small sips. This one I have a soft spot for. Don't damage her. Now, let's see here. Ah, there he is. She notices somebody in the crowd, flashes a heart-melting smile, and suddenly even you feel drawn to her. You haven't thought about it before, but it's laid clear before you in this moment. Sophie is beautiful. Just looking at her is a privilege. Just being with her makes you feel elated. Everybody in the crowd, but especially the man who's almost tripping over himself to reach her, clearly agrees. Sophie. Edgar, I'm so happy to see you. How is your daughter? Is she with you? Oh, there she is. Julie, my girl, come over, please. There's somebody I'd like you to meet. The young woman who walks across the hall can't be more than 19 years old. It's clear from her mismatched earrings and the partially faded purple hair dye that she doesn't fit this crowd. Julie, this is Vincent. I think the two of you should get acquainted while I talk business with your dad. Awfully boring stuff, I assure you. I'm positive you'll like each other. The girl gives you a shy smile and nods towards the balcony stairs. You follow, somewhat unsure what it is exactly Sophie expects you to do. You reach a secluded space from which the entire lobby is visible. All eyes are on Sophie. They listen intently, then laugh when she does. Julie saves you the trouble of figuring out the next step. Oh, she's a cutie! Oh, I could totally see myself cosplaying her. Look at that. She's so cute. Julie, if you're with Sophie, then I guess you're, that you know. She puts her wrist to her lips and gives herself a theatrical nip, then looks to you, embarrassed, but also hopeful. Oh, really? Yeah, I do. Yes, I do. She takes off her jacket, unbuttons her sleeve, then rolls it up. You see a tattoo of a cat in an astronaut suit, one feline eye winking at you. There. Just enjoy. See if we can print screen this girl. Because she is adorable. Super cute. A perfectly awkward smile and a blush. Drink from Julie. You take her forearm in your hands. A quick look around confirms nobody's watching and no security cameras cover this area. You bite down, gently. It's surreal. She's just given you her blood of her own volition. How is this possible? What about the masquerade? You need to ask Sophie. Your thoughts disappear amid the bliss. There's just the taste. Sweet, fresh, sanguine. You drink. And drink. And drink. No, stop. You tear away from the girl harder than you wanted. Still, the bite leaves just tiny punctures. Almost as if by instinct you lick them clean and the two holes become concealed. Just like that. Julie is now leaning on the wall, pale, wobbly on her feet, but happy? She lets out a dreamy sigh, opens her eyes. A few tears fall onto her shirt. Tears of joy. Thank you. Thank you. Please, can you walk me downstairs? Please? My dad, he doesn't know. Thinks it's a condition. Miss Langley told him so. She leans on you and requests you walk her over to a bench. She takes a seat and smiles at you. The crowd around Sophie disperses slowly. Looking at her now, only some residual awe hangs in the air. Yes, she's pretty. Maybe even beautiful, sure, but not your type. What came over you before? You walk over to her. Edgar, dear, it was splendid talking to you, but we need to get going. Give Julie my best wishes. Come with, Vincent. Gregory is waiting for you out front. It's only in the car that Sophie addresses you. I can tell from your look that you took the opportunity. Good for you. That girl's exquisite, don't you think? You wouldn't tell by her demeanor, but she has so much passion. It brings out a unique bouquet in her blood. Yeah, no, she was delicious, but I want to know why she knows who we are. Vincent, I think she knows who we are. That's not normal, right? Sophie. It's not usual, that much is true, but don't worry. She will do anything I tell her to, and won't say anything to anyone that I haven't put in her pretty head first. Time for the next stop. Training wheels off this time. Gregory, Flushing Meadows, please. The driver takes the car over the Williamsburg Bridge. You settle your thoughts. What did you do to the people back there? Vincent, those people back at the hall, they were all entranced. Even I was under your spell. What was that? She smiles with satisfaction. Sophie, that old trick. Just the blood doing my bidding. We all have our talents. Some of them come from the legacy we inherit from our sire. Others can be learned with experience. I can sway people or make them fear me. I see more of the world and in greater detail than some kindred. I can will my body to move with unparalleled precision and grace, and more. All of these skills make me who I am. They also help me hunt. How do I use my powers? How exactly do I use these talents? Sophie, you will the blood to do your bidding. Many times you'll find you do these things intuitively, almost passively, but making an entire room focus their attention on you, that is tempting the beast. Always keep the masquerade in mind, however. It is all fine if you can disappear in plain sight or command animals with your mind, but save those overt talents for the right place and time. It only takes you half an hour to reach the park at this time of night. Both you and Sophie leave the car, with Gregory left behind again to find a parking spot and keep an eye on the car. Sophie seems deep in thought. She takes in the surroundings with a dreamy gaze. The sky is surprisingly clear tonight, the stars just barely visible in the light-polluted aura of the city. Sophie. I feel like having a snack myself. I'll be by the fountain. Go look for somebody to your liking. See what effects you can achieve with your blood. But only pick one victim. Just one. Then come back. Alright, training wheels are really off. Seeing how she seems not altogether here right now, you decide to leave Sophie to her own devices and seek out your prey. From here, it looks like you have a few choices. Just taking a stroll around the park and finding an isolated jogger or someone like them could work, but focusing on one area might work better. The New York State Pavilion might work as a secluded spot. There's a skate park nearby, and worst case scenario, there's bound to be some unfortunate wino around. Or maybe the tennis courts nearby. There's light coming from there, so somebody might still be playing a late night match. They won't be alone, but they might be tired and let their guard down. As these scenarios play out in your mind, you realize you're planning how to assault a stranger in the middle of the night. It's a weird way to be, but the now familiar hunger prompts you to act. Alright. Let's see. We can search for a victim around the park, hunt near the decrepit pavilion, look for prey at the tennis courts, or take a walk but don't feed. Well, we have to learn how to do this at some point anyway, so I think we're going to look at hunt near the decrepit pavilion. That sounds interesting. You make your way to one of the park's most well-known landmarks, the round skeleton of the New York State Pavilion, with its two vaguely futuristic-looking towers. I've never seen it, so I don't know what it looks like in real life, but I'll believe ya. You don't get lucky with the skate park. It's not deserted. Instead, a group of skaters is gathered there, talking loudly and listening to music, playing out of crackling smartphone speakers. Deciding to have a quick look around, you identify a potential victim. A sleeping bag lady leaned back on a bench, a shopping cart full of what looks like trash nearby. Even thinking of that second option makes you feel sick. You decide to take your chances with the skaters, not even getting close to the homeless woman. You think back to what Sophie did in the hall, how she managed to focus the attention of the entire gathering on her. That might be a tall order for you, but a single person? Could be doable. You single out a guy who's talking on his phone away from the gathering. He's having a heated discussion with somebody. A relative? A partner? It's not going well. Skater. This talk's over. I said shut the fuck up. Hey, you hearing me? Shut up. Call me when you get some fucking sense into your stupid brain, okay? He ends the call abruptly and almost throws the phone to the ground in frustration. So what do we say? I'll be like, hey, sorry to interrupt. Yeah. He's got an angry expression on his face and tears welling in his eyes, but he gives you a curious look and even a bit of a shy smile. Skater, hey, no problem. Can I help you? What do we say here? This is a tough one. Let's say I got just the cure for that downer. That's why not? Vincent, I got something that will put a smile on your face. He takes a few steps forward, away from his buddies. You remain totally oblivious to what's happening, but you see your influence fading. You take your chance and lunge. Your fangs sink into his exposed shoulder. He shivers and lets out a moan. His phone hits the pavement, and you hear the casing crack. His blood tastes like a clash of hot emotion and melancholy, laced with some artificial stimulant you can't quite place. An energy drink? A recreational drug? It's a strange mix. You hardly have the chance to savor it, as the proximity of the skater's friends makes you feel vulnerable. You hastily finish drinking and drag the guy over to the pavilion. When you turn around, you realize you're not alone. A hooded man is looking menacingly at you. Hoodlum. What do you think you're doing, barging in on my turf like this, lick? I'll just say, didn't mean to trespass. I'm gone. I didn't mean to trespass. Sorry, I'm going. Too late for that, friendo. You want to leave here in one piece? You talk, candidly. I know what you are, so you can shove that masquerade misdirection up your ass. Now better tell me who you're with before my posse shows up and we beat it out of you. I'll just say I'm here with Sophie Langley. Maybe that helps. I came here with Sophie Langley. She's my patron. Hoodlum. Doesn't ring a bell. Sounds fancy, though. He licks his lips, exposing his fangs and looking at you voraciously. A nervous tick or an attempt at intimidation. I wonder, what would Callahan do to you if I brought you in? Huh? Break your shins? Leave you out to be kissed by the sun? Ooh, concrete shoes maybe. He's old school like that. We're just gonna do a celerity and run back to Sophie. Fast! You take off. Fast. Faster than you've ever run. The hoodlum has trouble keeping up, but howls behind you like an animal and gives chase anyway. As you reach the Unisphere again, you slow down, noticing two people near the sculpture, a man and a woman, tangled in a passionate embrace. No, not exactly. It's Sophie, feeding. But this whole scene is set up so that it looks like a couple getting intimate in public. She pulls it off like she's done it 100 times before. It occurs to you that she probably has. The man is unsure on his feet as she lets go of him and leads him towards a nearby bench. Noticing you, she whispers something into his ear and leaves him. Her driver appears from behind a tree. Well, Vincent, how did it go? You're about to answer when the same figure as before emerges from one of the alleys. He looks at you. He looks at the three of you, and a predatory smile creeps onto his lips. You thought you could run away from me, Lick? Think you'll be safe with your friends? Well, I have friends too. He makes a motion to shout, but two things happen almost at the same time. First, that feeling of warmth and beauty emanating from Sophie flares up again, entrancing both you and the hooded thug. His shout comes out as a weak, confused squeak. Second, Gregory produces a wooden stake from a holster under his jacket and slams it into the thug's chest. Just like that, in a few seconds, the posturing vampire is down on the ground, paralyzed. Sophie. I see you've made a friend, Vincent. Curious choice of company, I would say. Who is he? He mentioned a Callahan? He said something about presenting me to somebody named Callahan. Ever heard of him? She looks shocked for a split second, then recovers her regular countenance. Sophie. Yes, I have. This hoodlum is Anarch, then. Curious. Corona Park has not been claimed by any kindred last I checked. Let's go to the car. We'll put him in the trunk and present him to Kadir tomorrow. I'm sure he'll be delighted to make this unbound's acquaintance. Gregory carries the staked vampire and dumps him in the car's trunk like a mannequin. It's a strange sight, and you're quite happy you're not in that poor fucker's shoes right now. It's almost surprising that you can get away with just casually throwing a stiff into your car and driving away, but then you remember that Sophie has been doing this far longer than you have. Still, the nagging thought that anything you did tonight could have been recorded on a CCTV camera or picked up by a rando with a half-decent smartphone and streamed online fills you with dread. Hunting and using your abilities is a dangerous business. It's clear that this whole being a vampire thing has about as many caveats as it has perks. You're taken out of your headspace by Sophie's voice. Sophie. I will pick you up tomorrow night. Same as tonight. I have some business to attend to at Elysium, and I expect you to accompany me. Plus, our friend in the back needs to be properly introduced to Kadir and the prince. I'm sure he'll have some interesting things to say to the court. Her voice is cold, cruel, and nothing like the enchanting personality she showed at the gallery earlier tonight. Sophie is clearly a woman of many faces. Right, let's see. What's going to happen to him? Yeah. Sophie. The usual, I imagine. Interrogation by Kadir, probably in the basement of the gallery. A quick trial with the prince in attendance, if she's there tomorrow night. A swift execution as the verdict. This all sounds eerily familiar to you, and you can't help but feel a pang of guilt when you think about what awaits this guy tomorrow night. You haven't told me how your hunting went. Getting the hang of it, I would hope? It'll take some getting used to. I'll need time to get used to this. It doesn't come naturally. Sophie. It will, with time. You need to think about it less. Hunting is the one scenario in which you'll do well to trust your instincts. In moderation, of course. She seems distracted, not all there. Her thoughts drift, and the car remains silent until you reach your apartment. Sophie. We will pick you up tomorrow evening. Good night. Just like that, without any further courtesy, Sophie leaves, driven to her apartment by Gregory with a body in the trunk, right in the middle of Manhattan. Did you cross paths with situations like these in the past unknowingly? What other secrets did you pass on the streets without knowing their true nature? Your haven is just as you left it hours ago. Although the sun won't come up for some time, you feel tired. You learned something about yourself today, and it'll take time to process. You're not in the mood for television, and the few books in the shelves in the apartment are either in languages you don't speak or sound like a boring read. Nothing left to do but rest. You settle in the back room, lock the door, a moment of hesitation, but then a decision. This time, you turn the light off. You think back to Julie. How many people in this city know about this vampiric society? How many are willing accomplices in sustaining it? And the thug you met in the park, if he's not Camarilla, then what is he? Are there independent vampires? And how does that work? More questions. You begin wondering if there's ever going to be a night when you can start crossing them off the list instead of adding to it. You close your eyes. You sink into the now familiar void of nothingness. It greets you with open arms, like an old friend. Oh, there you go. Just grabbing a drink for my poor throat. So I don't know, should I continue or should I stop playing? I'm not sure. Let's see. We'll just rest. And then we continue. You open your eyes. It's pitch dark here. The blackness of a coffin drifting in the abyss. Oh, right, the light. You grasp for the switch. Flip it. The familiar cramped room with a steel door and no windows comes into view. You emerge from the bedroom, fully awake, just like yesterday. This time, however, Sophie is waiting for you, comfortably seated on the sofa in your living room space, a book in her hand. The melancholy of resistance. The title's sure on brand. Good evening, Vincent. Good evening, Sophie. I hope you rested well. Tonight will be quite eventful, I think. Come, we have an appointment. I received word Elysium would be called again tonight on account of your unruly friend from Corona Park. This should be a great opportunity for you to mingle. Alright, well. She keeps talking as you walk downstairs and get in the car. Gregory gives you a slight nod and a small smile while opening the door for Sophie. He starts the car when you take your seat in the back. Sophie. Most of the Primogen Council is bound to be there, at least those who usually attend. Probably some other important personalities you'd do well to at least learn about. Alright, how should I carry myself when inside? You never told me if there's any savoir-vivre kind of rules I should respect when talking to other vampires. Knowing that you're among your superiors is probably the most important. In our society, status comes with age. Pardon my sincerity, but you are insignificant. Not even associating with me can make the fact that you've been kindred for barely a few nights be forgotten. So know your place. Stay out of your superior's business, and show the utmost respect. Thanking the prince for sparing you, and maybe having a friendly chat with Kadir publicly might show your gratefulness for being a part of the Camarilla now. I would suggest you make it sincere. At any rate, you should behave yourself tonight. Remember what I told you about reflecting on me as your patron. I have a reputation to uphold in the court. Do not tarnish it. There it is. She might have saved you. She might be protecting and teaching you, but it's clear what she's really concerned about. Her own interests. You step into the art hall with something of a bad memory. The last time you were here, your entire world had been turned upside down, and your existence nearly ended. But tonight, there is very little outward hostility. Yes, Kadir gives you a look that's definitely intended to remind you of your place, but the prince, also in attendance, seems pleased to see you. Prince Panhard. Welcome, Sophie. Vincent, did I get that right? Good evening to both of you. I understand there is somebody else you wish to present to the court tonight. Sophie. Yes, Prince. They will be joining us shortly. My assistant is retrieving them presently. Kadir. This better be worth the prince's time, Langley. The prince gives Kadir a cold glance. Prince Panhard. Forgive the sheriff's harshness. He's in a particularly foul mood tonight. Something to do with Vincent's begetter eluding his grasp, I believe. Ouch, that must have hurt his ego, even if his only reply is a crooked smile. The mention of your sire makes you feel a pang of emotion again. Whoever he was, he left a lasting impression, one reinforced with your visit to the show space last night. That's the past. Right now, though, you're back in the gallery and are reminded of your sister instead. Emma frequents this place. Is she aware of these clandestine meetings after dark? The flaring up of whispers in the gallery hall breaks you out of your thoughts. Gregory enters the room, the jumpsuit-clad inert vampire still staked on his shoulder. The show's about to start. Sophie's driver places his charge in the middle of the room and nods respectfully to Kadir. The sheriff approaches the vampire and removes the stake from his chest. The captive's eyes flicker to life, and he starts looking around in disbelief, like a cornered animal. He backs out on all fours, keeps going in circles until he realizes he's trapped. Kadir steps on the man's chest and pins him to the floor. Why, who do we have here? Hoodlum. Oh, fuck! Oh, shit! No, come on! Don't! Silence! The sheriff takes on an aura of utter dread. He appears as if he's a primal force of nature that's out to get you, and there's absolutely nothing you can do but shrivel in terror. The beast inside you shrieks, and you could swear it happens in unison with the instincts of some of the other guests here tonight. It's unlike anything you've experienced in his company during your turbulent first night as a vampire. He really did go easy on you, all things considered. It seems like it takes all of the hoodlum's willpower to not crawl into a fetal position and start crying. No, please, don't hurt me, man. Don't! You and me are going to have a little talk downstairs, at the prince's discretion. Prince Panhard, please go ahead, my sheriff. Kadir, you heard the prince. Get up. Let's go. He doesn't wait for a confirmation. He just grabs the man and drags him, kicking and screaming out of the room. Conversations start all around you, some whispered, some quite overt. Sophie looks somewhat bored of the whole affair, her eyes wandering from art piece to art piece, clearly finding nothing to her particular liking. Torture in an art gallery. Vincent. For how cultured you all seem, torturing somebody in an art gallery doesn't seem to faze you. Sophie. Oh, please, do keep your naivety to yourself. Power and violence have always been two sides of the same coin. Most of us here are far too old to bother with keeping up appearances. Excuse me. Sophie leaves your side and goes to a corner of the gallery where a group of kindred, some seemingly pretty old-fashioned, gathered. A concierge offers you a drink, still warm. It smells nice. Just a sip to start you off, a splash over your palate, coating your tongue and the inside of your cheeks. Nourishment. You're left to your own devices. You have a quick look around. The prince is currently talking to a dark-skinned woman that you recall seeing here those few nights ago. She has a cold but noble countenance to her. Their conversation seems to be casual. A loud, shrill laugh turns your attention to the bespectacled man who you saw with Sophie on the night of your judgment. He's making the rounds, chatting up different patrons. You feel somebody's eyes on you. A casually dressed, plain-looking man stands alone near a column, watching you. He turns his gaze away sheepishly when he realizes you've noticed. We'll chat up the man with the glasses. Maybe. Or confront the man looking at you. Well, Sophie did say that we should try to talk to the prince. But I'm more interested in this guy that was looking at us. There's something about this guy. It's not that he's staring at you. Most everybody in this room has at one point or another. It's how he does it. He seems shy, maybe even afraid. It's hard to find a secluded spot in the gallery tonight, but this guy has an entire corner of the room all to himself. He's standing alone, no glass in hand, just a look of worry as you approach. Good evening, Mr. Robert Larson. Oh, apparently Mr. Robert Larson is a fan of fleece sweaters. He's not really dressed for an art gallery trip, is he? But I like his hair, though. Nice and messy. Larson. Or you can call me Robert. Either is fine. So, who are you? Robert Larson. You mean, like, generally? Same as you, a vampire, though I might not quite look like it? I'm one of Prince Panhard's primogen. I'm here on business, in case the prince requires my insight, usually so she can hear me out before she ignores me. Not sure if you were paying attention the other night, but when the prince mentioned diverging opinions on whether you should be executed or not, that was me. I was the diverging opinion. And you were ignored. Robert Larson. Yeah, that's usually how it goes. Listen, I don't want to be rude, and I appreciate you reaching out, but word of advice? Stay away from me. Many vampires in this sect regard my position as primogen to be a kind of a joke, you know? You talk to me, they'll notice, and they'll hold it against you. You have a quick look behind you and see that a few of the kindred keep shooting you curious glances. One woman especially, a redhead boasting a fanciful hairstyle, watches you disapprovingly. Some of them already do, I imagine. Excuse me, I need to try to get a word in with a few primogen members before Kadir returns. Enjoy your night. With just the critical looks of a few kindred to keep you company, you start thinking about who to pursue next. I'm thinking this guy was probably a Milkavian or something. He gives off that vibe. You notice Sophie mingling with other kindred, clearly in her element, and not to be disturbed. Kadir hasn't come back yet, so you can probably still find time for at least one conversation. So we'll talk to the prince. You approach the prince, trying to stay as respectful of her private conversation as possible. She glances at you as you step forward, her scrutinizing gaze mimicked by her companion. She addresses the dark-skinned woman before turning to you. Prince Panhard. Excuse me for just a moment, Samira. Yes, Vincent. What is it? I wanted to give you my thanks. I wish to thank you for sparing me, Prince. I realized it wasn't an easy decision to make, and I wanted to express my sincere appreciation. Prince Panhard. How thoughtful of you. She takes a long look at you before she continues. I didn't do it from the kindness of my unbeating heart. You are an asset to Miss Langley, to the Camarilla, and to me. I believe I made the right decision. Prove to me and the other kindred of the city that it was so, and there might be more to your future knights than just survival and servitude. The dark-skinned woman looks impatiently at you and catches the prince's attention. Prince Panhard. Forgive me, that's all the time I can spare right now. We have some things to discuss with Samira still. Enjoy your night, Vincent. Just bow and leave. You leave the two women to their conversation, which they get back to almost immediately after the prince turns to Samira. A loud exchange near the staircase grabs everybody's attention. Kadir is back, and the hoodlum is with him. The sheriff pushes the other vampire inside the room. The vampire that threatened you last night is a mess. That stupid hat still inexplicably on his head, covering some of his ruined face in a welcome shadow. He's barely conscious. His shin is broken, you think. Something protruding there, making a bulge in the pant leg. One arm seems twisted at a strange angle. Very little blood, surprisingly, but clearly a whole lot of hurt. Prince Panhard. Well, Kadir, did our guest cooperate? Kadir, tell the prince your name. It's Howard. Kadir, and who do you run with? Howard? The Midnighters. Kadir, an anarch coterie, my prince, active for some time now. Though, from what this one told me, the name is about the only legacy the group kept over the years. Prince Panhard. I see. Howard. Hey, Prince, I didn't mean it. I didn't know. I didn't... A loud crack as some of the guests audibly gasp as Kadir's slap dislocates the man's jaw. A spray of blood creates something like an abstract art piece on the floor. Kadir. This one is guilty of threatening a member of the Camarilla and claiming a domain without the prince's approval. That would be enough to pass swift judgment, but he is also anarch scum. My prince. Prince Panhard. There can only be one verdict. Final death. Do your duty, Sheriff. Unless, of course, somebody would like to play at being a good Samaritan, like our dear Miss Langley a few nights ago. The look the prince serves you and Sophie is a cruel jest. Sophie takes it gracefully, smiling and slipping her arm into yours in a strange, public show of affection. Nobody says anything. The vampire named Howard jumps to his feet and makes for the window. I'm not gonna intervene. That's not my job. You have a feeling Howard's effort is fruitless. Just a few seconds later, that feeling is confirmed. He almost reaches the window. Almost, but not quite. In what seems like a blink of an eye, Kadir appears near his scabbarded sword in one corner of the gallery, and then appears next to the escaping anarch on the opposite side of the room. The next moment, Howard's head flies off of his body, baseball cap free. His lifeless body crumbles to the ground and begins to decompose in real time. It's an uncanny sight. Prince Panhard. As always, our sheriff does not fail to impress. I would like to thank Miss Langley for bringing this anarch thug to mine and Kadir's attention. I assume all have found the verdict satisfactory. It's a rhetorical question, and everybody here knows it. Prince Panhard. Then I consider tonight's meeting concluded. Good night to all of you. She steps out of the room, and you see that many of the guests motion to do the same. Sophie seems to be conversing with somebody, a serious-looking man in a trench coat, about what transpired. You probably have the time to strike up a conversation of your own, too. Kadir al-Asmai is still here, but clearly getting ready to leave, for one. Larson is still moping around, and the other man you noticed before Kadir brought the Anarch here is still chatting with the remaining attendants. Well, we'll talk to Kadir before he leaves. I like Kadir. The sheriff's mood seems to have improved, so you decide there won't be a better shot at saying your piece. He's just sheathing his sword as you approach him. He notices you just before his face turns from a melancholic frown to his regular predatory smirk. You seem to have caught him at a moment of reflection. Kadir, what is it, Vincent? Is everything alright? It seems like a very innocent and naive thing to say. But let's do that. Hey, are you okay? Did I catch you at a bad time? The smirk is gone. His lips are tight now, his face a mask of professionalism and restraint. Kadir, I have no idea what you're talking about. This is a night like any other. I wonder, how does it feel to bring a lamb to the slaughter the way you did tonight? Did you feel any remorse, regret? I'm going to enjoy guessing. If there's nothing else, I'll be taking my leave. Can you tell me something about Sophie? Yeah. I was wondering if you could tell me something about Sophie. She talks a lot about the Camarilla and other things, but I barely know anything about her. Kadir, oh, I can tell you something about Sophie. Some things she wouldn't want you to hear. Like the fact she's manipulative and vindictive, but then again, which of us kindred aren't? You want to know more about Sophie's past? Ask her. She's unlikely to tell you the truth, though. I'm quite sure she never told me, despite our previous history. That's what we do, fledgling. We exist for centuries and we lie. To our families, our friends, our lovers, to our kindred, sires, and children, to ourselves. He picks up the sword and turns to the stairs. Good night. And watch yourself. You've messed up my batting average, so I'll be sure to keep a close eye on you. With that final threat, he leaves the gallery. It's right about when Sophie also ends her conversation and walks over to you. Sophie, interesting evening, wasn't it? Come, Gregory's waiting downstairs. She seems preoccupied with something, and not in a talkative mood. It's an awkward ride back to the city. This time you arrive at another building, just 2 streets across from your apartment. She brings you upstairs, through a very nice lobby and a luxurious-looking hall, into her domain. Sophie, please, have a seat. I shall be right with you. You take in the surroundings. The apartment is like a gallery, an old-school smoking room that you've seen in some period piece once, and a nouveau riche living room, meticulously put together. Sophie, apologies. Old habits die hard. Clearly, some stick with you even after your death. She drags on the cigarette, breathes out. Breathes? How is she doing that? Can you do that? Sophie, oh yes, you might not know. It takes some practice, but you can keep smoking if you'd like. Other things too. Experiment. You might surprise yourself. But I did not bring you here to show off. This is where I rest these nights. That door in the back, the bedroom. Similar to yours. I have servants and bodyguards in addition, of course. I brought you here because I need you to trust me. When I told you before that I needed your best behavior to uphold my good standing with the court, I meant it. But that's not the whole story. I have your interest in mind too. That's why I've given you your own haven, why I'm trying to teach you how to navigate this new reality. But you need to trust me, or else this won't work out. You can come here whenever you feel like asking me something, when you're in trouble too, though I hope that won't happen often. I would ask you to come here when you wake up tomorrow. I'll have something to discuss with you. why not discuss it right now? Why not talk right now since we're here together? Sophie, I still need to follow up on a few things before we speak. Patience, fledgling. That silence again. There is definitely something on Sophie's mind tonight, but she doesn't seem eager to share it with you just yet. Sophie, I'm leaving for another visit. Come downstairs with me. We'll give you a lift. A quick trip, some polite goodbyes, and a promise that you'll show up tomorrow later. You open the door to your haven and gather your thoughts. It's exciting, in a way, being dragged deeper and deeper into this secret society and its rules. Whatever Sophie has planned for you, it's bound to teach you more about this thing you have become. You sink into your vampiric sleep with just a sliver of hope. It's a welcome change. Alright. So it's time to rest again. I think I can get going a little while longer. There we go. So, you wake up. You have these past few nights in a windowless room. As you pry open the reinforced steel door, you look out the window to see, invariably, a sky bereft of sunlight, and then it hits you, the hunger. For a moment, you let yourself wonder if there will ever come a night when it's just not there. Given what you've learned thus far, you probably have as much chance of kickstarting your heart with jumper cables. You lock the apartment behind you and head over to Sophie's apartment. You did promise to call on her. Might as well not keep the lady waiting. And hey, what else are you gonna do? Call M? She's probably worried. At least she will be once she actually tries to give you a call, which might not happen for a few more weeks, months, if she's busy doing press for her new piece. You could try to track down your sire, if the sheriff hasn't done that already. After all, he did buy your painting. There has to be a money trail, right? But even if so, what would you say to him? These thoughts put you in a weird mood. It's a strange sensation to walk the crowded streets, same as you have so many times before, but feeling so disconnected. All these people, you're not one of them. Not anymore. You're a vampire, kindred, and you need to carve your own path in this strange new existence, one way or another. Appropriately enough, you arrive at Sophie's building just as that thought crosses your mind. A quick word with the security guard and you're led into the elevator. Apparently, Mrs. Langley is expecting you. Of course she is. Sorry. You knock and wait, patiently as the footsteps on the other side grow closer. Finally, the door opens and Gregory, Sophie's driver, invites you in. You find the lady herself standing by the window, silhouetted against the city's... Silhouetted against the city's midnight glow. She stares out, motionless, like a marble statue. Yeah, it's eerie. Doesn't look very happy either. Everything all right? She doesn't react immediately, but seems to snap out of some meditative state and looks at you with strangely bleary eyes. Sophie, yes, it is. How kind of you to ask. Tell me, when you look out at this city, when you see the lights, hear the hum, smell the rain on the pavement, what do you think about? You gaze out. You thought the city couldn't surprise you anymore. You've lived here all your life, after all, but tonight something feels different. You realize in this moment that you have truly changed. Yes, you know what Sophie means, the way she gazed out that window and saw the truth beyond. You do the same. The view is fascinating, each detail absorbing, every angle a new experience, the familiar made sublime. When you turn to Sophie again, she smiles at you knowingly. Ah, so you understand. I had my doubts, but perhaps we are of shared lineage after all. You see, the blood that flows within me is that of Clan Toreador. There are 13 such bloodlines among us kindred, though that number has been contested in the past, and these nights it seems that nothing is certain anymore. The clans have gone by many epithets for the years, but the names used these nights have their roots in medieval times, the original Inquisition, if you can believe it. They used these to categorize us, describe our inherent differences. In time, we adopted them ourselves. Each clan has a uniqueness about it, inescapable, originating from an ancient progenitor carried from sire to child. For the Toreador, the gift lies in a sensitivity of sorts. We're uniquely attuned to beauty and ugliness both. We can see either where most cannot. A blessing on most nights, occasionally a curse. The sheriff is of my clan as well, although you'd be hard-pressed to see him as such. Poor Kadir, it breaks my heart to see him in this state. Still, there is a beauty to it as well. Nothing like a good fall from grace. Try as she might to act playful, you can tell she genuinely cares. She lets her gaze wander for a brief moment, but is quick to regain her composure. Then there are the Ventru, known for their pride and a proclivity to rule over others. The prince represents that clan, as is quite common in our society around the globe. Where the Blue Bloods think themselves rulers, the Bruja like to see themselves as preeminent revolutionaries. They call for universal rebellion, while being slaves to their own temper. We don't discuss the rabble much anymore, not after they've largely broken off with the Camarilla. To think they were philosophers once, long ago. I hope to tell you more about some of the other bloodlines tonight. So, how can I tell a kindred's clan? Say I meet a vampire for the first time. How can I tell what their clan is? Usually you cannot, with a few exceptions perhaps. For some clans, the uniqueness I mentioned bleeds into their appearance or disposition, but even that can be misleading. Outside of a few very specific cases, knowing one's clan is less important than understanding who they are personally, what drives them, their wants and needs, weaknesses too. Speaking of which, we come to the reason I wanted to speak to you tonight. It is customary in our society, especially among younger kindred, to organize into coteries. Sometimes these are called by the prince themselves or mandated by a fledgling sire. In our case, you may treat it as more of a strong recommendation. I want you to seek out companions, not only because you need to learn more about our society, but also because it is useful. True friendships are rare among kindred, but having allies, even temporary ones, is something of a necessity these nights. We might be selfish creatures, but we are drawn to each other nonetheless. Alright. Do you have your own coterie? Where should I look for allies? What if I want to go it alone? Where do we start? Vincent, any suggestions on where I should start looking? Sophie, I was just about to get to that. She puts on a mysterious smile. I spent some of my precious time last night asking around, pondering potential kindred for you to meet. Came up with a short list of contacts. I hope you'll appreciate the gesture. Forging a partnership with them might offer perspectives and viewpoints that I cannot provide, lenses through which to view our kind. They're all members of the Camarilla, of course, more or less. Okay, who are they? Alright then, let's hear it. Who's on the list? Sophie, eager to learn about them, I see. Good, I'm glad. So let's start with the Tremere. Ooh, Tremere. I like the sound of this already. Ooh. They're a powerful clan, disliked by many, but feared and respected by many more. They have been an important pillar of the Camarilla since the very beginning. They are blood sorcerers. Blood sorcerers? You could swear you once saw them play at the Apollo. Probably not the same blood sorcerers, though. Sophie snickers. Oh, child, don't be caught with that look on your face when you meet a warlock in person. They really are adept at using vitae, their own, as well as others, to unique and potent effects. Since they are quite rigid in their hierarchy, the kindred I had in mind for you might need some persuading. His name is Agathon. From what I hear, he is quite the scholar, very ambitious, the child of a noted Tremere here in New York, Aisling Sturbridge. Spend enough time with Agathon, and I'm sure you'll run into her sooner or later. Blood magic. Intriguing. This whole blood magic thing sounds intriguing. Sophie. Oh yes, fascinating. It's also a well-kept secret of the Tremere. Don't expect them to share it right away. Some things have to be earned. Anyway, if you wish to contact the young Tremere, I hear you can usually find him in a New Age bookstore out on Broadway. The Tremere have one of their workshops there. Gregory will give you the details. Now, this next recommendation comes with a bit of a caveat. As you recall me saying, most bloodlines have unique features that might not be obvious at first glance. Well, there is one clan whose members wear their curse on their sleeve. The Nosferatu. Wait, Nosferatu as in the German expressionist classic? No way. No wonder they make their havens in sewers, abandoned buildings and such. Their appearance is hideous and obviously unnatural. Had they walked the streets like other kindred, the kind would have learned of our existence long ago. Did she just shudder? It's hard to tell with her usual complexion, but you could swear her skin suddenly took on an even more sickly color. The one I have in mind isn't as big an eyesore as the worst of them, but he is no Adonis either. Still, he has some talents and connections that you might find useful. His name is D'Angelo, and he has an office, for lack of a better term, and the otherwise abandoned grain terminal in Red Hook, right next to one of those Swedish stores. The name escapes me, the ones with the awful furniture. IKEA. What IKEA? A Swedish furniture store? You mean IKEA? Yes, that's it. My mind struggles to retain things that are aesthetically displeasing. D'Angelo does odd jobs for Kadir, digging up dirt, locating kindred who would prefer to remain hidden. The kind of work the Nosferatu are best at. He's on a case right now, something to do with Kine murders, I think. After your initial brush with our dare sheriff, I think it would be wise to show some goodwill towards his agenda. Assisting D'Angelo with his investigation might be just the thing. She takes a brief pause to look out the window again. Now come the two more exotic proposals. Proposals. Alright. Exotic. As if the blood mage and the vampire detective were business as usual. Yeah, that is very true. Sophie. You may have heard about the Gangrel before. They are a wild clan in touch with their beast in a way others might not dare to attempt. They mostly keep out of big cities, but there are exceptions. Nominally, they haven't been a part of the Camarilla for over 2 decades, but the one kindred I would like you to meet has strong, shall we say, familial ties to the sect. Her name is Tamika. Her sire, Jezebel, was instrumental during the Battle of New York back in 1999, the very same battle that cemented the city as a Camarilla domain. Sadly, her achievements have gone largely unrecognized. Tamika and a number of her siblings still reside in the domain they were awarded after the battle, Prospect Park. Jezebel herself left the city some years ago, fed up with being underappreciated. Yeah. Anything more about Tamika, or should I contact non-Camarilla clans? Yeah, that's a good point, dude. I got the impression contacting vampires who aren't in the Camarilla was frowned upon, but you're saying these Gangrel aren't a part of the sect anymore? How does that work? It's not as clear-cut. The Gangrel as a whole have sworn off the Camarilla, but individual kindred of that clan can still hold their ideals. Jezebel was one of them, before she became jaded. Besides, their domain is Prospect Park, has been in Prospect Park has been upheld by Prince Panhard for all these years, has it not? We considered them members of the sect, and they have, for the most part, kept to themselves. Perhaps it will take a young kindred such as yourself to make them realize where their loyalties lie. So you see, seeking out Tamika could prove quite educational, if nothing else. And who knows, perhaps you will find her temperament to be a welcome change of pace. But speaking of a change of pace, I have one last suggestion for you, though it's one I don't make lightly. The kindred who calls herself Hope. She is a Malkavian. They are a uniquely cursed clan. For centuries, we considered them mad, insane, unhinged. But those of us who spend enough time with them come to understand the truth. It is no sickness, but a unique perception of the world that has them appear to us as unstable, and that perception can prove to be very valuable. Having a Malkavian as your companion might be taxing on the nerves and a true test of patience at times, but their insight and intuition are unrivaled among kindred. As for Hope specifically, she is said to be a recluse, but I have it on good authority that she can currently be found in an internet cafe, I believe it's called, in Lower Manhattan. Gregory has the address. An internet cafe? Quaint. An internet cafe, really? How quaint. Sophie, I really wouldn't know. No, you wouldn't, because you're ancient. But since you brought it up, be aware that Camarilla is highly critical of using the internet to communicate. The Second Inquisition made sure of that. Exercise caution when at her haven. Alright. Well, I believe that's all of them. I still have a few social calls to make tonight, so I'll leave you to it. Use tonight and tomorrow night to arrange some cordial visits of your own. I will send Gregory for you as soon as I have further need of your services. Oh, that reminds me, you will need a car. Join us downstairs, won't you? She smiles once more and turns to her driver. He helps her put on her coat, and the three of you leave Sophie's apartment. Sophie points to one of the cars near the building as Gregory hands you the keys. It's a rather inconspicuous compact car, a decent-looking, if not luxurious, ride. Stay safe, Vincent. This is your first night alone. Don't let it be your last. As they drive away, you find yourself with more freedom than you've had for the past few nights. A blessing or a burden? Time will tell. With a list of addresses in your hand, you consider your next move. Alright, so we have a choice. Where do we want to go? Do we want to go see Tamika, Agathon, D'Angelo, or Hope? I mean, it's so tempting. I love Malkavians and I love Tremere. They're like my two favorite clans. Which of them should I choose first? Let's go see the Warlock, I guess. Okay, so this is our mission. It's a kind of magic. It's a kind of magic. I think that's a Queen song. Pretty sure. Sophie's mention of a vampire clan of blood sorcerers sparked your attention. One of them, Agathon, could potentially be your introduction into the bizarre powers of the Tremere. Searching for Hope. Sophie suggested you meet Hope, a reclusive member of the Malkavian clan. She's supposedly holed up in an internet cafe in Lower Manhattan. It's really cool that we get to know, like, the map of New York and Manhattan and stuff. Gumshoe in the Dark. A recent string of violent killings has the Red Hook district of Brooklyn on edge. Sophie mentioned that Kadir al-Azmai has a secret associate investigating the murders, a Nosferatu neonate by the name of D'Angelo. If you help him out, he might be persuaded to form a lasting partnership. And then there's Tamika, Jezebel's childer. Sophie mentioned a gangrel neonate by the name of Tamika, who's made herself a haven in Prospect Park. The Ferals aren't exactly a social bunch, even by kindred standards, but if you can keep her from clawing your eyes out just long enough, she might be persuaded to join you. Yeah, no, we'll start with Agathon. And and the magic, just because I love Tremors. I love them so much. You arrive at the address given to you by Sophie, a small bookstore smack dab in the middle of Broadway, of all places. Yeah, that is a weird place for a bookstore, I suppose. What really catches you off guard, though, is the store's display. From what you've heard about the Tremere, they are infamous for their ties to the occult and the mystical. And yet now, looking at the oddball collection of items in the display window, it all feels borderline satirical. The books here cover everything from Ayurvedic practices and homeopathy to wellness and self-motivation. The vaguely amusing juxtapositions don't end there either. Yeah, that is pretty funny. You notice a copy of Anton LaVey's Satanic Bible tucked behind the cheap smiling Buddha. A scientific journal on hematology sits next to a teen-oriented pamphlet on the blood type personality theory. A number of religious and quasi-religious symbols, lockets, pins, and various emblazoned paraphernalia are haphazardly strewn across the display and between the tomes. Before you even open the door, you can smell the burning incense and hear the corny Far East tinged music seeping through the crackling speaker mounted above the entrance. It's much more quaint than what you expected from what Sophie told you about the so-called warlocks. It doesn't look like they have much interest in impressing outsiders. Then again, if there's anything you've learned these past few nights, it's that appearances can be deceiving. At this time of night, the shop appears to be closed. Regardless, you ring the bell. You hear someone shuffling around inside. A brief moment later, the latch slides and the door is pushed open, just a few inches. A tired-looking blonde in loose clothes appear in the crack. She seems confused, like you just woke her up. She lets out a yawn, scratching at her tattooed neck. Finally, she squints in your general direction. Her pierced lip curves into an awkward smile. Is Agathon in? I'm looking for a guy named Agathon. Is he around? The girl gives you a suspicious look over, but opens the door. She takes a few steps back, and you hear footsteps coming from behind a floral curtain that covers the back door. A bespectacled, smart-looking woman emerges and looks straight at you. Come in and follow me. Just don't touch anything, please. You follow her through the store. Inside, as expected, the stuffy air smells of sandalwood, frankincense, and a dozen other aromas. The woman leads you behind the curtain and through the back door onto a rickety staircase. A flight of steps take you up to the second story. You instantly notice a change in decor as the tacky New Age bookstore gives way to something resembling a cross between a library and a workshop. The smell here is strong too, but much more layered. You're not sure what to make of it at first, but with each whiff it becomes apparent. Blood. The aroma, though subtle at first, soon becomes overpowering. It takes you a moment to adapt and focus. Aisling Sturbridge. I don't think you know who you're speaking with, so an introduction is in order. My name is Aisling Sturbridge, and I am the High Regent of the Chantry of the Five Boroughs. I like her. She's cool. I could cosplay her as well. I think I have glasses that would fit that character, potentially. I like how they're all very modern and very, like, just people, dark people. So, Regent of the Chantry of the Five Boroughs. That's a big deal. Being a regent is a really big deal. Wow. So you are Vincent, correct? I have to say, you're lucky the ward outside the building is only there for notifications tonight. Otherwise, it would have been quite unpleasant. To answer your question, Agathon is here, but he's hard at work, and I wouldn't want to disturb him. Am I to understand this is a social visit? How do you know who I am? Yeah. Wait, how do you know who I am? Aisling Sturbridge. Well, for one thing, knowing who's who in this city is one of my duties as High Regent. But more importantly, you've been on the mind of many a kindred since Langley took you in. It's quite a precedent, as I'm sure you know. At first under Prince Panhard, and for Sophie... A first under Prince Panhard, and for Sophie to be the one to do it. Curiouser and curiouser. I guess she reads Alice in Wonderland. Still, I'm sure you haven't come here to look for dirt on your sire. That would be unwise. I'll just say, I heard good things about Agathon. I heard some good things about Agathon. Thought I'd drop in and see how much of it was true. Aisling. Appealing to her vanity. How very original. You better step up your game, fledgling, or New York will eat you right up. Suddenly, a man enters from a side room. He doesn't even look at you, lost in his own thoughts. Agathon. I have it, Aisling. I think I know how to find it. He catches himself as he notices you. His face turns sour. A visitor? Aisling. Yes. We were just discussing you, in fact. Is that so? Agathon says. Let me introduce myself. Yeah. Let me introduce myself. My name is Vincent. I've been told you might be interested in, teaming up? Oh, we're so naive. We're so cute. Oh my god. Agathon. Teaming up? He seems very confused by the notion. What for? I could use your knowledge. It's as good an answer as any, really. Well, I could use your knowledge. I'm new here, and a scholar like yourself could teach me a lot, I imagine. Agathon, you're not wrong. He turns to Aisling. Agathon, High Regent, may I ask your advice on this? Aisling looks at you with nary a sign of emotion. Aisling, I believe that you have far more pressing matters to attend to at the moment, my child. Agathon, that is my intuition as well, High Regent. Aisling, it's settled then. I would kindly ask that you leave, fledgling. We have many matters to discuss. Matters not meant for undiscerning ears. Both of the warlocks look at you expectantly. We'll just... apologies for any inconvenience. Vincent. Well, apologies for any inconvenience I may have caused you. Good luck with your work. You make your way downstairs. As you pass the blonde, who now seems to be napping behind her desk, Agathon reappears behind you. Agathon. Wait. Come back up for a minute. Somewhat confused, you follow him back to the workshop. Aisling is leaning against a wall, watching you both with a keen eye. Agathon, listen, I tend to work alone. I am not used to socializing. But he hesitates for a while. When he speaks again, it almost comes out as a mumble. Agathon, I could use some help tonight. Would you be interested in teaming up? Aisling, why don't you start by giving our intern here a brief explanation of what it is you're after? Agathon gives Aisling a hesitant look, but the woman nods approvingly, encouraged. He turns towards you. A member of our clan disappeared without a trace a handful of nights ago. While the High Regent investigates if any foul play was involved, I have been tasked with recovering her research notes, if there is anything left to recover, that is. I may have an idea where to start looking, and I suppose this is where you come in. If you truly wish to help, I could use your assistance tonight. Right now, in fact. Given the time we've just wasted on idle chatter, I should leave immediately. Who's the missing person? And the missing kindred. Who is she? A single glance at Aisling is enough. You can tell you're not getting an answer, at least for now. Agathon, we're after the research. That's what you should focus on. These people aren't in the habit of making things simple. Facing layers upon layers of secrecy, you can only hope that what lies beneath is the real deal. I'm heading out. Are you coming or not? Yeah, sure, I'll join you. Why not? That's exactly what it says. Sure, I'll join you. Agathon, very well. He gives Aisling a slight bow. His High Regent, with your permission. She nods. Before you go, however, Vincent, defer to Agathon in all things. Our clan values obedience above everything else. Prove you can follow, and this might turn into a mutually beneficial relationship. I will await his return and his report. Good luck, my child. Agathon bows again and heads out, urging you to follow. The High Regent watches you leave. Outside, Agathon leads you to his car. It's almost funny seeing him get behind a wheel. Somehow you'd expect a more mystical means of transportation. You drive south, heading to the Lower East Side. Agathon seems lost in thought. Either that, or he's a very careful driver. Either way, several minutes pass in silence. Look at those eyes. Gosh. They are menacing and kind of psycho looking. So, let's see. What are we gonna... So where are we going? Agathon says, Williamsburg. There's a place there that our missing colleague frequented. He seems to be thinking of the right words before he decides to address you again. Let me ask you something. Why me? There is likely a couple hundred of us kindred in New York, yet you seek me out specifically. Why? I just said you sounded interesting. I've been told of a few younger vampires I should meet. You sounded like an interesting guy. Interesting. I see. Once more, he grows silent. You're unsure whether to continue prying as your driver seems to disappear into his thoughts. You drive into Williamsburg and stop by a fancy-looking building. We're here. There's a restaurant on the top floor. You wanted to help, so here's your chance. I need you to get us inside the VIP lobby. Oh, really? So you need my talents? Is that it? Once we're in, I need about half an hour of focus and some space. It'll be up to you to keep attention away from the room. Can you do it? He doesn't wait for an answer and points to the front door. Go ahead. I'm right behind you. The two of you take the elevator up to the restaurant. The door opens and you see that there are only a few guests left, sitting at their tables. An important-looking staff member approaches you. Manager. Good evening. I'm very sorry, but the restaurant is closing for the night. I can make a reservation for next week if you wish. Okay. We're location scouting, or I'm the special kind of client. We'll try location scouting, see how that goes. Hey, we're not your regular customers. In fact, we're location scouting for a movie. We'll just take a quick look around and we're gone. No, I'm sorry. We are not interested in being featured in a movie. I will have to ask you to look elsewhere. I would suggest Smith and Walensky or the 21 Club. Okay. We'll have to use presents. It's fine. We can come in. Hey, it's all good. We can come in. We'll be in the VIP lobby. It won't take long. The man blinks. A confused smile appears on his face. Yes, of course. Not a problem. Please, come right in. You walk in, trying to look casual, and make your way towards the VIP lobby. You step inside and close the door behind you. It's a nice place. Very highbrow. Lots of old, expensive-looking furniture and private rooms to discuss any sordid business when you're that rich. Your companion looks at you with something akin to admiration, or at least that's how you choose to interpret the slight change in his usual somber facade. Agathon, not bad. Not bad at all. He inspects the room. It's unusually cold, and Agathon soon discovers why. Looking behind the curtain, a window hangs open. The handle and lock look like they've been dissolved, as if with acid. Agathon, God damn it, Juno! Looks like she's gone. Whoever Juno is, it looks like she's no longer here. A flash of fury sparks in his eyes. Yeah, no kidding. He takes a frantic look around the room. This changes things. Keep an eye on the door. I'll need some time. Half an hour at the very least. Nobody disturbs me. Understand? He hastily pushes a couch and some potted plants out of the way, moves a bar stool, and takes out a carved knife, cutting into his own arm. He lets some of his blood drip onto the wooden floor. It's pretty fucked up, the way his flesh oozes the deep red, thick vitae. In life, you'd have found it stomach-churning, but right now, you feel weirdly turned on by the sight. What follows is more disturbing yet. With one hand, he sheaths the knife and seals the wound. With the other, he smears the blood around him while muttering some weird chant. It sounds vaguely Latin, but you're pretty sure it isn't. It's all more than a little disconcerting, but he seems to know what he's doing. A few moments later, the circle starts glowing faintly as thin wisps of smoke surround Agathon. He sits down in the middle, legs crossed, eyes closed. Minutes pass. Agathon's face twitches from time to time, and his head turns every now and then, as if he was looking around or listening in on a conversation. The smoke grows thicker, forming a veil around the mage. You expected something more flashy, but it's still a sight to behold. You wonder what the point of it is, but refrain from asking. It's probably best to let Agathon do his thing. For close to 30 minutes, you're left to your own devices. Sorry. Then, suddenly, the door opens slightly and the manager leans into the room. You tense up for a second, but he just gives you an awkward smile. Anything you need? You shoo him away before he can take a closer look at your companion, and he retreats obediently. 2 minutes later, Agathon casually gets up off the floor and walks over to the sofa. He pushes his hand in between the cracks in the upholstery and fishes something out. He then turns to you and nods. We're done here. Let's go. You make your way back to the elevator, passing the manager on your way. He gives you a slight, somewhat confused smile, but neither him nor any of his staff get in your way. Despite that, the elevator ride down feels tense, and the two of you only relax once inside Agathon's car. He starts the engine and takes a right at the Continental Army Plaza, back onto the bridge. You're just about to say something, but he beats you to it. Agathon, that went better than I expected, all things considered. It might have been a trick of the light, but you're pretty sure you just saw a smile. Agathon, I'm used to working alone, but what I'm dealing with right now, it might require some more assistance, and you seem capable enough. Found what you came for? So I'm guessing you found what you came for. Agathon, sort of. Enough to continue the search at any rate. That seems to deplete his social battery for the night. You drive the rest of the way in silence. It doesn't take you long to reach the warlock's hideout. Agathon waves at you absent-mindedly once again, lost in his thoughts, hopelessly so. One of these nights, you should probably take him up on his offer. Who knows, if you gain his trust, maybe you can actually break through his stoic facade and meet the man underneath. Alright. I guess it's time for us to rest, maybe? Because the night is almost over. So, you notice something strange by the front door of your haven. There's a letter flipped under the door in a cream-colored, old-fashioned envelope. There's no name on it, but you know it's meant for you. Opening the letter, it's clear it's been sent by someone incredibly old-fashioned, rich, or a fan of classic stationery. No normal person sends letters like this. The note is small and terse, written in elegant, delicate handwriting. You're cordially invited to a rendezvous at the Cathedral of St. John the Divine. I'll be waiting to make your acquaintance tomorrow night. Look for me closer to God. There is no other information. It looks like you have a mysterious invitation for the following night. Well, damn. We'll see, more stuff popped up. Faith and Myth, Part 1. You've received an invitation to meet a mysterious someone at the Cathedral of St. John the Divine. I'm not ready for that yet. Let's go talk to Hope. And that'll be the last mission for today, and then we'll end the stream for this time. Alright, let's see. It's a quiet, moody internet cafe. Half of its spaces serves as a comfy coffee bar these days, but behind a glass wall, it still has a space dedicated to rows of PCs. From the street, you can notice tired adults in casual clothes typing away absent-mindedly, and some bored kids wasting the late evening hours on colorful online games. If Sophie's intel is to be believed, this is where Hope has set up her haven. One of the waiters is standing outside the building, gazing at the sky with a smartphone in one hand and a vape pen in the other. You approach the man and tell him, I was supposed to meet Hope here? If I told you I was supposed to meet Hope here, what would you say to me? Waiter, I'd probably tell you I'm surprised. People are usually far more discreet about seeing her. The man slowly takes a drag from his e-cig, sizing you up and down in silence. After a long, awkward moment, he raises his voice again. Come, right this way. He heads back into the cafe, and you follow his lead. When you make your way through the space with computers, no one averts their gaze from the spreadsheets, emails, Facebook profiles, or games of Fortnite. It's a common sight, one you wouldn't have paid much attention to a few weeks ago, but now it seems so unnervingly quaint. Would they still be spending their time like this if they were immortal? The waiter unlocks an unassuming door at the end of the room and lets you inside. You two swiftly make your way through a labyrinth of sterile gray corridors, taking confusing twists and turns. Feels like you're traveling into a different world, crossing one invisible portal after another. Eventually, you reach your destination. Your guide notions you to enter a dark room with a lone source of pale light, a computer screen in the distance beckoning you to come closer. As you do, you hear the doors shutting behind your back and a short chuckle echoing behind it. Is this the place? Nothing else to do but sit on a chair in front of the computer. The monitor displays a modern chat application. A cursor is blinking in the user nickname entry field in the middle of the screen, obviously expecting you to input your handle. After brief consideration, you type in your name, Vincent. Better play it straight and prove you have nothing to hide as a gesture of goodwill. After a few seconds, the chat window opens and messages start appearing on the screen in quick succession. Hostage executioner. Oh, that's a lot. God, I'm so hard. Not sure. Oh my god, literally, who cares? Wait, who's Vincent? Vincent? No idea. A new user. Wasn't here a second before. No, announcement. I know, I wasn't. Vincent, identify yourself within 2 minutes or get banned. The chat goes silent, everyone seemingly waiting for you to say something before proceeding. This must be a close-knit group. Better say something before they kick you out. I'm looking for Hope. Looking for Hope. Is she here? Who the fuck are you? This was meant to be a save channel. Investigating what went wrong. Stay calm. Lol, yeah, sure, that's our Jerry. Gonna DM it to anyone interested. There's a lot of stuff happening going on. Hostage executioner said, the day you decided to spy on us. You're gonna regret the day you decided to spy on us. Alright. We can try to use presence to try to get the chat under control. I'm not sure if that's gonna work, but... You've had enough of these trash-talking randoms. Time to teach them some respect. Your blood fires up. Ancient powers starts coursing through your veins, fingers tapping the keyboard buttons on their own. Vincent, you people better stay quiet if you know what's good for you. You have no idea who you're messing with. You will obey me. The chat goes silent once again, and then it explodes. What am I looking at here? Lol. Oh shit, watch out, he started typing properly. You have no idea who you're messing with. Guess your powers don't work online. Go figure. Well, yeah. You know your cheeks would turn blood red right now if they still could. There, you got the info. Nice. You want to die, asshole? You will die. You will die. Die. Sentenced to death for a shitty name their mom gave to them. Tough shit. I'm literally on my way to kill you right now. Yeah, sorry to inform you, you're about to die. R.I.P. bitch. You're getting your throat slit right here, right now. A split second after you read the message, you feel someone's arms tightening around your neck. The violent return to reality catches you off guard. A jolt of panic rushes through your brain, paralyzing you momentarily. You've come to the wrong chat room, motherfucker. A ridiculous whisper rings out next to your ear, and the grip under your head gets even tighter. You start struggling, but even with your newfound supernatural strength, you're having trouble breaking out. This isn't a normal human you're dealing with. Last words? Okay, so it's either Sophie sent me here or your chat room sucks ass. I'll just say Sophie. Sophie sent me here! Langley? The hand holding your chin shifts its position slightly. Don't struggle, or I will break your windpipe. Or my phone, which would end even worse for you. Sounds of a camera shutter and light flashing. Did they just take some selfies with you? Alright, that's enough fun. I'm letting you go. We can have a talk. Don't do anything stupid, Mr. Intruder. Pretty please. The mysterious assailant loosens their grip on you and gently pushes you away. You quickly turn to take a good look at them. Let me just finish this. It's a pale blonde woman in her 20s, giving you slightly judgmental looks while rapidly tapping away at her phone screen. First, you notice her outrageous outfits, seemingly thrown together from random thrift store finds. Then you take note of her tattoos, a sprawling tapestry of odd patterns and designs covering every visible part of her body. At first glance, it all seems aimless, but it has a consistent sense of style upon closer inspection. Her eyes focus on you for a second. Gave you a scare, huh? Sorry, that's what you get for entering a lady's haven without her permission. And she's back to her phone. With her relatively small build, it's hard to believe you had trouble overpowering her physically. But then again, nothing is what it seems when it comes to the undead. And even compared to the vampires you've met so far, she comes off as an eccentric, curious presence. She shoots you another glance, noticing you're still cautious of her. Calm yourself, man. I won't pull anything like this anymore. It was just, feels stupid saying it out loud. A vibe check. Vibe check. Yeah, I got a glimpse of your vibe on the internet, and in a dangerous situation, I'd say I've got a pretty good idea about who you really are. I'm Hope, by the way. If you're here, you've probably heard of me. So I went ahead and skipped the pleasantries, but come to think of it, I might have skipped too many of those. Yeah, she definitely fits the description you were given by Sophie. Hope. I still can't believe you got so mad online. You actually tried to use your powers on people talking trash about you from who knows where. Jesus. Anyway, don't worry about the chat. It was all a game to us. No hard feelings, okay? I'll introduce you properly later. On the monitor, the chatter continues normally. Your visit is like yesterday's news, no longer relevant to anything. But, oh look, if we're gonna talk about you, you should have something to say too. What are you doing here? About time, she asked. Note to self, she really loves the sound of her own voice. I'm building a coterie. I'm looking for people to join my coterie. Hope. Coterie? Been there, done that. Not interested. Unless... She takes a closer look at you. Her eyes go wide. Wait. Shit. Are you the new Langley plaything? Word seems to be getting around fast. Of course you are. It was obvious the second Langley got her hands on a new servant, she'd start building a network. Your emissions tell me that could really come in handy when... But Langley, that's a risky game. This kind of ambition attracts too much attention. Piss off. But then again, fucking Kara. She seems to be having a spirited argument with herself, only parts of it audible. Is it just you, or do her facial expressions and body language change a bit between one sentence and the other? Before you make certain it's not just your eyes playing tricks on you, she focuses half of her attention back on you. The other half, of course, is still obsessed with her smartphone. Hope, listen, I'm not saying I'm not interested in cooperation, but before I make a decision, I need to make sure you sort of understand me and that I sort of understand you. And since I was planning to put on a show before you came here, I propose a little game. Hope absentmindedly spins her phone in her hand, considering how to put her thoughts into words. Then, she approaches a switch on the wall and flicks it. Neon lights flare up, illuminating the room. You take a look around. The room is certainly unique. It looks like a butcher's room, repurposed to be a living space. The modern computer in front of you starkly contrasts the ominous industrial walls. At the back, there's an overwrought bed covered in velvet with meat hooks hanging above. On top of the bed sheets, you notice what seems to be pieces of elaborate S&M equipment and a camera. Wait a minute. You want my help? Moderate my cam show. Cam show? Your eyebrows twitch involuntarily. This is definitely not the kind of request you expected to hear tonight. She notices your confusion. Take it or leave it, buddy. You just became a kindred, but you want to become my partner in crime? Show me you can handle yourself while watching my back in my everyday environment. She's serious. The show starts in 10 minutes. If you think yourself better than this, better walk out the door right now. I won't hold a grudge. I've got better things to do. As if to prove it, she looks at something displayed on her phone and cracks a brief grin. Another reply typed down with absurd speed. Tap, 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 tap. 9 minutes. It's now or never, show moderator. Risk of violating the masquerade? High. Content warnings? Oh, yes. So, do you take the job? Why the hell not? I mean, we're in this ship. We're going down with it. So, yeah. Why the hell not? Hope brightens up and her smile looks surprisingly sincere. Excellent! I promise you might find this interesting in more ways than one. Alright, give me a second. She spends a minute setting up the computer you used before, then urges you to sit down. The explanation of the moderator's functionalities is simple. It boils down to ignoring anyone who doesn't disrupt the chat, banning anyone who does, and kicking anyone who's causing minor trouble. 5 minutes later, she's already online, sitting on her bed in a provocative pose. It is a sex show, isn't it? Her voice, previously hushed, rings out with full force. How are you doing tonight, hopefuls? You peek at the chat. We're not worthy. Queen, fucking A, angel. Hell yeah, time to fuck. That's what the chat says. Yeah, I'm just gonna ignore. You're tempted to try out the kick and ban prompts as soon as possible, but obviously you won't punish someone for a little dirty talk. Thank you! Today's show is quite special. Please welcome our new moderator, Vincent! Turtle guy laughing my ass off. Ooh, laughing my ass off. Sorry for sentencing you to death earlier. At least the community here seems to be a bit more welcoming this time. Looks like this place has an established hazing ritual. Or maybe they and Hope came up with one specifically for you. Who knows? You decide to stay silent. Eventually, people stop riffing on you and focus entirely on the star of the show. Alright, let's start this one with a bang, shall we? Oh boy, she's gonna do it. Queen! Is what the chat reads. So this is where the strip show starts. You raise your head, curious about what kind of performance she's going for. First, she opens her mouth and reveals her retractable fangs in front of the camera. Right off the bat, the online audience is treated to a sight of her wholly human set of teeth turning into a monster's maw. The image is both revolting and fascinating. She raises her left wrist for everyone to see, and then bites. The fangs immediately turn her arm into a horrifying, gory mess. It's unclear if she used them to slash or bite, but one thing is for sure, no ordinary human could cause such damage. If an ordinary human suffered such a wound, you'd expect a geyser of blood to appear too, but it doesn't. Hope's technically a corpse, so it's impossible. She flashes a monstrous smile and starts smearing Vitae all over her hand to maximize the impact of the violent image. Then, she starts drinking it up. She makes it a point to make the sight as gruesome as possible, looking like a hyena feasting on a corpse. The contrast of her behavior with the look of an Instagram model is stunning. Once she's done, she reveals the wrist to the camera for the last time. She starts making theatrical gestures with her right arm as the wound begins to mend. Shortly after, it's no longer there. It's like a magician's trick. Her left hand looks like nothing wrong ever happened to it. Here's an appetizer. First blood to kick off the show. While you're wondering what the hell is going on, Hope catches a glimpse of your bewildered face and turns into your direction. How is that for an opening? You're shooting snuff. Come on, just because it's transgressive violence doesn't mean it's snuff. A brief moment of awkward silence. Oh, come on, if I was shooting snuff, I wouldn't mend the wound. If you expected a strip show, yeah, sorry to disappoint. This is more like, live-streamed digital art. The erotic subtext is there, of course. You peek at the chat. They're going wild. Yeah, they're all very into this. Sexy Bozo says nothing more arousing than a beautiful woman teetering on the edge of oblivion, a rose petal dancing in the eye of a violent hurricane. Yeah, these people are disturbed. Hope. But eroticism is not the key here. It's vampirism. It's a new frontier, a living art installation. In the early 90s, the Japanese artists kept producing these videotapes with beautiful women committing gory harakiri. Those are an inspiration. She bares her fangs again in a devious grin. But I've no interest in auto-destruction or turning myself into a victim. This is a celebration of a body I love, not self-inflicted punishment. The audience came here to marvel at a beautiful vampire and her awe-inspiring powers. Mending wounds is just one of those. The people watching can pay to see more. Oh, and don't worry. The only things the audience can see and hear are the things I allow them to. We can talk freely. Just remember to moderate the chat, will you? High risk of violating the masquerade. What a joke. She's blatantly breaching in front of any anonymous viewers. Still speechless, you turn your attention to the screen. There's a lot of something about a pink marshmallow somewhere in there. I don't know if there's anyone I should kick. You give the guy a kick for spamming the chat. A few seconds later, Hope groans loudly. What the hell did you kick Masochist for? It's normal for people to show their excitement like this from time to time. Maybe he'll interpret it as his queen hurting him and be grateful, but stop messing up. Oh well. A special message appears on the chat log claiming somebody has successfully sponsored the first goal of the show. Hope smiles and picks up a bag of blood from underneath the bed. It must have been retrieved from a blood bank. She showcases the label to the camera for everyone to see. Drink up. Lots of hearts. Hope pours all the contents of the bag into her throat. You have no doubt it's real blood, but wonder why the viewers would be so satisfied with something that's so easy to fake. Don't worry, it pays well enough. You don't even bother to tell her this is not what you're thinking about. Safe to assume she knows. So what do you know about the Kindred and the internet? Have they told you anything? While she's waiting for someone to sponsor her next vampiric feat, she decides to start a conversation. Is this the right time? Is it not? I think you need to utilize every moment to the fullest if you don't want to feel as dead as you are. I'm busy waiting, so I might as well teach you about the world you're about to enter. See, some of us used to experiment with our own secure networks. We tried to build our own information hubs, social networks, everything. She's still working the phone in one hand while looking for something under the bed with the other, on how many things she can concentrate at one time exactly. Then one day, the NSA got in. Turns out elders never really got the hang of proper security practices, or the sigils they used to smear on their screens didn't exactly work as advertised. Then, of course, all the other three-lettered intelligence agency in the world got the intel, and a lot of them decided bloodsuckers were the perfect new enemies for our post-9/11 times. The Second Inquisition came into being. Ever heard of it? A lot of our kind died just because they were too present online. Right now, the remains of our old networks serve as government honeypots, kept alive to attract fledglings and hunt them down. You post a certain keyword on Twitter or Facebook, you get tagged for investigation. You fit certain patterns, you get tagged for investigation. So there's a certain thrill in becoming an online presence without attracting attention from the authorities. She stretches on the bed. I hope you're still monitoring the chats. Of course not. You're not as good at dividing your attention as she is. You correct your mistake and check the recent messages. Yeah, I'm just gonna ignore the chat. Despite the nickname, they seem supportive. You leave them alone. You look away from the screen for a second, and when you look back, there are 3 new messages from the same user. Hope has crabs and gonorrhea, apparently. Yo, is it just me, or does your face look kind of retarded? But don't worry, baby, if you're a special needs... Wow, that's really offensive. I would kick this guy. Doing a great job back there, Vincent. The guy gets banned, and Hope goes back to running the show. Turtle guy. Great job, Vincent. Great job, Vincent. Great job, Vincent. They're still hazing me. They must have heard her. You've messed up. Anyway, yeah. When the Nosferatu admitted to Camarilla their network got compromised, the elders went batshit insane. Internet communications became strictly forbidden. There were executions. A lot of people who used social media to secretly contact their mortal families and lovers got offed. That goes without saying. But if you weren't careful, even the most innocent web usage could result in being punished with final death. Thanks to user Dick Steele, the next goal has just gotten successfully funded. Let's go! Vanishing Act. Dehumanize yourself and face to bloodshed. She raises her hand, 3 fingers up, 2 fingers up, 1 finger up. The countdown ends and she immediately disappears from the screen like a ghost. You can still see her on the bed, but the live feed indicates there's nobody there. When you deeply focus on the digital image, you swear you can make out some unusual glitching where her silhouette should be, but it could very well be just placebo. You ready for this? 3, 2, 1. A flash of a camera. The instant she reappears on the screen, she takes a selfie, sticking her tongue out in a provocative manner. The chat room explodes in tears again. She is their vampire queen. You briefly wonder about her being glued to the screen. Is this the fantasy everyone is here for? A girl showing off cheap magic tricks while lazily browsing her social media? You realize you're way out of your depth here. Meanwhile, Hope decides to continue her lecture. So those were some wild times, especially in New York. While most of them have no clue as to our real nature, a lot of clandestine organizations have classified us as a national threat. And since this is where the towers fell, the agencies are very much present around here, looking for easy PR victories. The last SI raid here was just a few years ago, and it was a big one. Stirred up the hornet's nest, something fierce. But although it's 2019, NYC is ruled by someone who got embraced before World War II, and the cam as a whole got really spooked and swore off the internet. Of course, they're not dumb and understand that you can't really coexist with modern kind without the internet. It's a gray zone right now, like piracy. Technically frowned upon, but let the one without sin cast the first stone. The SI is a real threat, no joke, but in many senses, the darkest place is right under the candle. You take another look at the screen. A familiar nickname pops up. Masochist-sama. Ignore. The guy seems to be having the time of his life. Good on you, buddy. You're just going to let this guy shit up the chat? Come on, it's your job to react to spam. She lets out a dejected sigh and kicks the guy from the room herself. Can't imagine she's too satisfied with how you've handled the situation. The show goes on. Oh yeah, fun fact about being a vampire, we can sweat and pee if we just exert ourselves really hard. Some of us can even orgasm. We can even cry, but only tears of blood. Just time. Yikes. Yeah, yikes. This is really hardcore stuff. Hope is, no, blushing violet or delicate flower, that's for sure. It's something I always dreamed to do when I was 14. So romantic, and it drives them crazy. As proof of her words, a scarlet tear starts running down her face. The chat goes wild. This seems to be exactly the kind of thing they've been waiting for. Yeah. Let's do some kicking. and kicked. Just to be clear, you realize what we're doing here is a blatant breach of the masquerade, right? I honestly expected you to leave or inform somebody by now, but you haven't, have you? You try to focus on the chat. A familiar nickname is displayed on the screen. More spam. Ban. Looks like Mr. Masochist needs a longer break. After you ban him, you hear Hope's voice. Good job handling that guy. Great. If nothing else works out, seems like you fit this job at the very least. In any case, the last goal has just been funded. It's time for the great finale. This is what you've all been waiting for, right? And seems like her chat is ready. Her voice has changed. She gets closer to the camera, letting her face fill the frame of the live feed. Her mesmerizing eyes are focused purely on the viewers. You wanted blood? Come out into the streets. Claw out your neighbors' throats. Slash their veins and drink up. Hope's presence becomes absolutely horrifying, and it influences the chat in some incomprehensible way. Everyone starts typing like they were possessed. Hope continues. Liberate yourself from the shackles of ordinary morality. Make them scream. Feel the warmth of their entrails. And the chat goes nuts. Haywire. Writing things that don't really make sense. What the hell is she doing to those people? What have you gotten yourself into? Transcend your bodies. Release the message of hope into the world. She starts jerking violently for a second and then falls down on the bed like a marionette that had just had its strings severed. She exhales loudly a few times and laughs. When she does, the room goes dark again. Hope. All right, that's enough. Instead of taking the continuing, she does something with her phone. The stream ends and the chat instantly becomes dead quiet. Let me take over. The atmosphere in the room has completely changed. She's already put herself together and stood up. Now she's walking towards you. At Vulgar, what the fuck just happened, Jerry? Guess the show is over. Everyone relax and go home. Hostage executioner. Ah, and I was almost ready to come, bros. Hostage, I swear on my father's grave, one day I will find you and kick the ever-living shit out of you. After every line she delivers, she changes her voice, the way she puts her lips together, and even the way she moves. You've caught glimpses of her acting this way, but only now have you started to figure it out. Wait a minute, does it mean... Miss Pointlock, I'm immortal, I am bored, I'm separated from most vampires in the city by a generational chasm, and I'm so goddamn lonely the internet used to be my only friend. Info dump delivery service. Years ago, I started researching tulpas, collective unconsciousness, all the mumbo-jumbo at the intersection of psychology and spirituality, and I decided to experiment. Yeah, I know, right? Frostimes, why would a vampire exhale loudly? Well, maybe she forced herself to exhale loudly. They can breathe if they want to. They just don't have to. The show was fake. Honey Legion. A few years later, I was an Instagram fashionista, a successful erotic model, a vital part of pop culture commentariat, a viral shitposter, a cryptocurrency expert. All of my internet selves started signal boosting each other, paving the way for new ones. I became a one-woman empire surrounded by legions of psychophans. The chat was fake. At me. Some may think of it as dissociative identity disorder, but that's bullshit. Everyone has online alter egos they buried. I just resurrected them, give birth to new ones, and let them crossbreed. Her constant tapping at the phone, even during the show. Somehow, she is capable of impersonating an entire chat room. Literally perfect angel. I don't even have a self that could dissociate or be mentally ill. I'm a host, a living database. I live because I find it fun to be an information conduit, to process trends and support the ones I deem worthy. There was no masquerade violation. She was showing off her skills all along. She put you into a world of pure fiction, the same way she was testing you back when she attacked you from the back. Damn, she's good at this. Yeah. Sorry about not being able to show you all of the choices for the chat, but I'll try to read them out. And I'll move my image next time. So, Malk David Chem. Of course, you could just ignore what I'm saying and decide I'm just another deranged Malkavian, but hey, annihilation of the self is the only way to survive in the 21st century. Android of Notre Dame. If there ever was an era that demanded images of beautiful people transcending beyond humanity and inspiring others to do the same, it's this one. Although for now, because of Masquerade, my audience is quite limited. Speaking of, you want to be the star of my next movie? So we can say ... really quiet, or sure, why not, or hell no. I think in this particular moment I would be like, not knowing what to say, so that's what we're gonna go with. Need some time to mull it over? Sure. No, sorry to disappoint. But yeah, your test is over. Now the question is, do I want to work with you? She puts away her phone for the first time since you met her and gives you a good hard look. Guess I can give it a shot. Yeah, you're not that dumb, you're not that boring, and you're kind of cute. Don't worry, no more modding jobs. Mods get attached, and that's always bad news. She grabs your arm and starts leading you out of her room. I put you through enough shit. Next time, I'll let you in on a little job I'm doing. We'll hit the streets, and you'll see why Sophie told you to contact me. She leads you through a labyrinth of gray corridors. It's a different route than the one you made your way through in. This city is so much more than what its elites consider real. Stick with me, and I'll guide you to places Camarilla elders couldn't reach in 100 years. She leads you out of the building into the back alleys. Even if someone else rules the streets, we will rule the information highways. This is the power of hope. She lets out a theatrical laugh and disappears. You don't even notice when she leaves you alone, but you assume everything went as well as it could. A new ally. The power of hope. As you walk off into the night, everything around you feels a little less tangible than it did a few hours ago. Yeah, no shit. Damn. That was intense, guys. I don't know. Are you interested in seeing more? I can keep going for a little while longer, but my voice is getting a little bit tired. So, and I've been sitting here for like 2.5 hours just live streaming Vampire the Masquerade. So maybe we'll call it quits for now, and I will see you back very soon. Follow the CosCast on Instagram to get notifications of whenever we go live. And if you want to ask us questions or join our Discord or something like that, you can do it. There's a button below the screen where you can apply to join the Discord. There are also links to our social media stuff and our Ko-fi and everything. So I'll say thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye, Fendorkables.